How's your day? Nice and relaxing?
Um, my day is my day just got very interesting. Uh, I did not that's not never a text you want to get.
Correct.
but and I had some things planned for the show, but as we've learned, sometimes you get hit in the mouth with things. So it's been a it's been a good day. I think it's gonna continue to be a good day, because we just don't allow it to not be. But at the same time, um, yeah, man, it's gonna get real interesting here over the next week or two with one particular partnership is how I would kind of put it there. And I think it's funny. I was talking to our mutual friend Lee earlier this week about some strategy on one of my projects, and he brought up and this is a project that has stepped in it several times, and they've kind of created their own landmines a couple of different times. Against my better judgment is the way I would kind of put this, to kind of try to avoid those
You're doing a great job. I just want you to know.
Judson says he can't stay long, but definitely he does not eat Domino's pizza. I haven't even got to that part of the story yet, Judson. I appreciate you. It's good to see you back in the chat, man. I hope you're well. Yeah, this is a team that's really stepped in it several times, and I'm not here to say I told you so. I'm here to make it better and help relaunch. And our mutual friend Lee reminded me of a story about Domino's Pizza. And I don't know if you remember this. It's probably 4 or 5, maybe even 6 years ago. They went through a complete rebrand, and they came out and they basically said, "Listen, we know our pizza sucks. Like, we know it flat out tastes like cardboard. We know it's just like off. It's like the worst pizza on the market, right?" But they hit it head on. And they said, "Okay, what are we going to do? Like, let's call a spade a spade. Our pizza tastes like cardboard. What do we have to do to move forward to regain your trust as a brand?" So, like I said, I had a plan for this show. I was just throwing a curveball. But that's what I wanted to talk about with you, is not that specific thing. That'll be an offline discussion. But
Good call.
had this happen in your career where, or if you walked into a scenario like you're onboarding a client who you just knew was just really stepping in it over and over and over and over, have you ever that far back to say, we knew this was dog shit, we've been selling dog shit, and how do you not sell that? Have you ever have that happened?
Not to that dramatic of a level, but there have been a handful of times where, yeah, we had to come out and kind of publicly say, hey, we fucked up with this.
Yeah.
We usually kind of take more of an approach of, kind of more just subtly poking fun at ourselves than going, full nuclear like Domino's did. But it's important, man. I think if there's one thing that people don't realize and don't give enough credence to, is that people hate a cover up 100% more than they hate a crime.
Yeah.
If you go out and you make a decision and it's the wrong decision, the worst thing you could do is just pretend it didn't happen.
Yeah.
If you went out and just said, like, Domino's, yeah, dude, our pizza sucks, but here's what we're doing to fix it.
Yeah.
And then make that a part of your storytelling, that's a great way to attack it, especially in the environment that exists on the internet right now.
Yep.
Everybody, from an older school generation, we can't say that our product's bad. We can't say that our service is bad. We can't say that people had a bad experience. We can't. I'm like, when anybody with half a brain is like, bro, they fucking know. Whether we say it or not, they know.
Yeah.
And then, just kind of talk about how you're fixing it and making it better. Like I always use the Barry Bonds, Andy Pettit scenario.
Mhm.
both very good baseball players, right? Both got popped for using steroids.
Yep.
Andy Pettit said, yeah, my bad. Shouldn't have done that. People do not think about Andy Pettit and steroids at all now.
Nope.
They think about the best postseason pitcher of all time, allegedly.
Mhm.
You know, Barry Bonds, other side of the coin,
Mhm.
you know, denies it to this day. Everybody knows he did it,
Yep.
you know, but won't admit it. So now he's vilified.
Mhm.
And, you know, I think that, you know, it's a very similar example here where people will literally die on that hill of our product is great or our service is great when in reality it isn't. And it just, it's wild to see.
Mhm. It's interesting because, you know, wouldn't that be interesting? Like if you're a whatever, I don't care, a restaurant or a bakery or whatever, and you routinely get rated on like Yelp or something like that. Wouldn't that be a really compelling, interesting video to go through and go back to like old bad Yelp reviews and sit there as the owner and like read it on like a Facebook Live and be like, yeah, this is Stacy from August 2017 who came to my bakery and said it was the worst cupcake she's ever had. Like, wouldn't that be interesting to say, here's my old recipe, here's my new recipe. I personally invite Stacy to come back in and give us another. I'll give her a free cupcake just so she puts another review on Yelp. No questions asked. Like, could you? That would be really. Not only would it be great content, but can you imagine just the response from people? You know, and I guess that's why I asked the question is, how can you turn that into a positive? You know, I think a couple different things. Number one, showing humility, that you're open to it, showing empathy for your past customers and hopefully your future customers, right? And then having the self-awareness to be able to know that there are people out there that are not happy with you for whatever reason. And I think that's, you know, we're talking a lot about PR and kind of managing, you know, which may or may not become a crisis. That's where my mind is already thinking about how can we get that person back that we either had or future people that may hear about something like this, you know. And that's really, some people call it damage control, some people call it strategy. I just think it's a continuation of, you know, you and I have talked about this many times. It's easy to do things when it's going really well. You know, show me the person in crisis and how they respond, and see how that team responds. So yeah, that's the kind of the mode I'm in with one situation. But I think for me, I'm already thinking past this. If it does in fact happen, I'm already thinking past this to say, how can we use this as a not only a teaching moment, but an empathetic moment and a sympathetic moment to make sure that we're continuing to tell the story that we want to tell.
Well, I mean, you know, it all comes down to being human as a brand. You know, we use that term a lot in, you know, content and storytelling and in marketing and engaging with your customers, you know, doing so as a human and connecting on their level. You know, I think, you know, properly and, you know, successfully navigating a damage control type situation is very similar.
Mm.
You know, how do people that you respect in life, like how do they deal with this? You know, they confront it head on. You know, if they fuck something up, they admit it and then they make it right. Well, like, spoiler alert, like that's how it works in business too. You know, if it's, you know, Domino's Pizza, if it's a bakery, if it's whatever, you know, acknowledging your shortcomings and then successfully correcting them is one of the most powerful experiences you can have with a customer. Is it because what are you doing, right? You're being self-aware, you're acknowledging that it exists. You know, why do 90% of the time when somebody gets mad and wants to speak to a manager, what are they upset about? It's very rarely like the order that got fucked up. They get so mad because they feel like they're not being heard. Right? Like, how many situations can be diffused if you just hear somebody out and then make it better? Most of them, right? So you're demonstrating that self-awareness, you're hearing them out, you're acknowledging that like, yep, this is bad.
Mhm.
And then, hey, here's how we're going to fix it. And then if you fix it, you've established a new standard, and then like you're just cruising, like it's fucking bar rescue.
Mhm.
That's why that's been one of the most popular shows in America for the better part of the last decade. What
Yep.
do? They literally spend the first half of the show showing you how bad the bar is, how much of an asshole the bar owner is, and everything that's wrong. And then they show, hey, here's how you're going to fix it.
Yep.
He goes full army drill instructor on the owner, completely tears them down.
Yep.
They do the same thing with the restaurant processes, and then they walk them through training and then build them back up.
Mhm.
And if you do that properly, you have a successful, sustainable business on the other end.
Mhm.
It's the same exact thing.
Yep. I had a new onboarding call with a new client last night, and I'm really excited. I'm really excited about this. It's something it's something that I'm not familiar with. It's something I've never done before. It's I can't quite talk about it just yet, but it's something I'm really excited about. But I last night was the expectation management call. It was because it was like, okay, give me all the bullet points of everything you're going to do for us. It's like, oh, okay, it's freaking, I could give you a 7-page email, but if that's what you want, I kind of have a prepackaged thing, no problem. And she goes, well, what happens if we encounter a situation that you don't have the answer to? I said, I go, not if, when. I go, when we hit that point, when we get painted into a corner and we have no idea where to go, I said, I'm going to be the first person to tell you, I don't know. I'm never going to be that person that says that literally lies to you or, defaces the truth or however you want to put it and say, oh yeah, no, I know how to do this, and then go and do the work and then do the work behind my client's back. I would never do that. It's going to be, I have no freaking idea how to do a banana whatever drink without pasteurizing it and put it in this kind of container. I don't know. I've never done that before. No idea. But 2 degrees from Kevin Bacon, I have people in my network that I can figure it out. Like that's the whole thing of that. It's not all in my head. I don't have everything in my head. I just know people that know how to put that banana thing in that style container. But we're gonna go figure that out together. But to your point, like if I had said that and said last night, oh yeah, you're in great hands. I'm gonna know everything about everything. And the minute she asks me about something and I say, yeah, I know all about that. And if she finds out that you don't know about that, boom, trust is gone, man. Like end the contract. So to your point is just be upfront and acknowledge things, and I always preface it when I have to say something that's really hard for a client to hear. I always preface it by saying, I'm about to say something that you don't want to hear. Are you ready for it? I know we've talked about this, but it's such an important thing because they give you the permission to tell them bad news, or they give you permission to tell you something that they didn't want to hear. But at least it takes that little sting out, it takes that little sting out. It's like the situation I'm dealing with right now. Like I just texted the guy, I go, what do you want me to say? Because I'm getting my phone right now. My phone is freaking blowing up. And I'm like, what's the stock answer? He goes, Ben, here are the facts as we know them right now. He goes, this is what I'm telling people. I'm telling people the truth of what we know right now. And I'm like, good. So I just learned more about this particular client in the last 15 minutes than I have in the last 8 months of working together. I've just learned more because he's telling me literally the truth, and he's telling me what he knows right now and what is going on. So I feel good about it. I got my heart ping right before I texted you about 15, 20 minutes ago.
Yeah.
But now I'm like, you know what? We're going to figure this out as a team. We are going to figure this out as a team. And I feel much better about the situation already.
Well, I think that, honesty has a weird way of doing that. At the end of the day, that reality is going to be reality regardless, whether you try to, tiptoe around it, whether you try to distort, well, however you phrased that earlier was magical. I couldn't remember what it was. Deface the truth or whatever. You know, all you're doing when you do that is you're just wasting time, right? Like because like the truth and the facts that exist right now, they're undefeated, as our friend likes to say, undefeated, right? So trying to fuck with that is just stupid on a number of levels, you know. So that's where like just being honest and upfront, like especially like, hey, yeah, dude, it's hard up front a lot of times for a lot of reasons, but you're gonna have to scale that wall, whether it's today or whether it's 10 days from now when you guys stop bullshitting each other. So like, let's just do it today. And you know, it's, you know, it kind of builds on our whole conversation of like winning players versus losing players. You know, that's a very winning player approach, and how you deal with that. You know, we went through it last month. An old client of mine who's now in a new position called me because he wanted to market something very big and very important on very short notice. And I'm like, Mike, I love you, but no. And he's like, well, what if we just tried it? I'm like, what if you try to get a 6-pack by next week? You can do everything humanly in your power. You could not sleep and only do that for 24 hours a day for 7 days in a row, and you're not going to be there. That's where we're at with this. And I would much rather not take your money, because like they were willing to like invest a premium in it to try to do it short term. But I'm like, it's not going to work. Maybe you catch lightning in a bottle and the right person just happens to see it at the right time. But, you know, we don't deal like in lotteries. You know, we don't take, you know, 1 in 50,000 flyer. We just don't do that. And this person called me earlier this week and basically had a full conversation about, hey, you're 100% right with that. They tried it and it didn't work. I'm like, I know. And then he's like, well, what would you do going forward? I'm like, X, Y, and Z. And he's like, this is starting to feel like a very similar conversation that we had 3 years ago. I'm like, yeah, no kidding. And, you know, that's probably going to be a pretty significant opportunity for us. Coming up, you know, because, and listen, man, like, it's not like, you know, we're some all-knowing people. That's just literally a mistake I've made before. You know, somebody flashes a big check in front of you for I did it this past holiday season against my better judgment. I talked to you about it on this show and off this show. You know, and it's eventually like you touch that stove 2 or 3 times and then you're like, oh wait, this really burns. I don't want to do that anymore. So at the very minimum, you avoid that headache and that ding to your reputation, which like not enough people pay attention to. People don't forget. And, you know, it puts you on record of, this is why I believe we do it this way, because that's how it works. And if we can do it that way, great. Let's go. If we can't, like, no big deal. Fine. I'll talk to you in 6 months when this doesn't work. You know?
Exactly. I had my best example of the truth being undefeated. And my wife is literally sick of me saying that phrase, that the truth is undefeated. I had a very, public position that I held about 10, 12 years ago. And when I left that position about 8 years ago, I mean, it was literally front page news when I left. And there was a lot of speculation and a lot of rumor going around my departure from that position, and come to find out that it was all internalized rumors that were starting. And it was really hard, especially being in this town, being so small, having the kids going to like kindergarten, like being at all the functions, like t-ball practice, like, you know, sitting on the lake. Like it was damn near impossible to try to fight it all. And you know, we were like, oh, do we go on the offensive? Do we do this? We we'll put out a press release, you know, what do we do? I go, we don't do anything. I said, we don't do anything. We live our lives with the values that got us here. That's what we do. And people, you know, you can only convince so many people. People are going to believe what they want to believe, but you can only live and act in the way that you feel like your values and your judgment and the way you treat other people. And I remember saying this to her back then, that the truth is undefeated. We know the truth. The people that are involved know the truth. Our family and friends know the truth. I don't care about, convincing the public what quote unquote the truth was. I'm not going to go out there and scream from the hills. That's not what I'm going to do. I'm not going to do a newspaper interview. I'm not going to do any of those things. I'm going to simply live my life the way I did it. And if people ask me, I would tell them the truth, because the truth is undefeated. So it took a long time for those rumors and things to kind of dispel, and ultimately the truth did come out. Ultimately, and it was nothing that I did. I didn't spearhead any campaign or anything like that, but the truth came out, and all of a sudden, it turned. Everything turned into, then they found out what truly happened. And it was like, then it was the oh shit moment. It was like, and I'm not kidding when I say this. It took almost 3 years for that to happen. So I had the patience for 3 years not to say anything, or not to this day, I will never say a negative word ever, because number one, there's no point in it. Number two, no good will come of it. Sure, I might get a short-term, there might be some sort of short-term gain by it. I don't know what that is. But to your point, it's like, just tell the truth, get over whatever sort of ramifications happen, and then continue to live your life like you were hopefully before, because you're continuing to build the PR or the personal brand or whatever it is that we're built, whatever. It's just always good. Like you said, being human, doing the right thing, telling the truth is always, good brand or whatever it is. 100%.
Well, and I think that that's a lesson that people are having to learn more and more and more and more these days. There used to be a time where, not so long ago, where, the media really told that narrative, like you say, like literally front page news. And that's a narrative that lasts 2-3 years, and what people aren't realizing is every day that, call it social media, call it just how the internet works now, call it accessibility. We've all never been more out there in our lives. To a certain extent, you are on public record today in the same way that, celebrities and athletes and political leaders were 30 years ago. If you go out and you do something, or you say something, or something happens and you're just there, the chances of it being documented are high. And a lot of people still haven't really grasped that.
Yep.
And, they don't realize that you just can't say and do whatever you want and then just have it be, it didn't happen. Like, yeah, it fucking did, asshole. Like, here's a photo of it. And, that's a big part of where the whole being human comes from. Because, like, if you're not a good human in your real life, eventually that is going to catch up with you in your public life in some fashion, some way, somehow. It just is.
Yep.
So that's where, and like, this isn't even saying anything like super scandalous or super big, but like as a human, like, you're gonna fuck up. You're gonna have a bad day and say or do something that you aren't proud of. Something's gonna be misconstrued. Shit's gonna happen. And like, it's just wild how many people, pour gasoline on that spark and start a brush fire for themselves by not doing the right thing and not handling it the right way. And it's just crazy. And it's the same thing with businesses and with brands, and we see it every day. Something minuscule happens, and then before we can address it, that business owner comes back at a customer on Facebook and you're like, what are you doing? Like, Like your staff fucked up. It's fine. Hey, Ben, really sorry. It's been addressed. Won't happen again. Your next dinner's on us. Wow, great. You go have a flawless experience. Boom.
Yep.
Easy.
Yep.
But, how to deal with crisis and with conflict, it's something that, not just PR firms have to deal with anymore. Like if you're going to be out there in any way, like you better have a fucking plan for it, bro.
I'm looking at the notifications on my social media folder. It's
yeah.
Gonna be a lot of talking, my friend. And this is something I really, I didn't realize how much I lean on. I don't even know if you know this. I was corporately trained in the country club world. Siobhan and I moved to Texas right after we got married in 2003, just to get out of Dodge. We were the can't stand upstate New York, wanted to get out. And we had very good friends in Houston. So we moved to Houston, Texas, which we thought was just going to be a temporary move because Siobhan was actually a traveling nurse at the time. So she could live anywhere in the world, paid for 3 months at a time. So they would move us, they'd furnish places. And she goes, hey, you want to go to Texas for 3 months? I go, yeah, let's go to Texas for 3 months. We had one dog, no kids. It's like, who cares? So we rented the house in Liverpool and moved to Texas for 3 months. So I started working at a country club called Bay Oaks Country Club in Houston, Texas, right off NASA 1, who a lot of the Houston Astros were members. It was actually like Roger Clemens, Craig Biggio, Jeff Bagwell. Actually, speaking of Andy Pettit was there at the time. And I was working there, and I worked my way up the chain very quickly. I actually became, in 3 months, I went from like a bar grill server. I actually moved my way up to assistant food and beverage manager at the country club. And Siobhan's 3 months was coming up, and she goes, what do you want to do? And I said, I'm really enjoying what I'm doing. Like, can we like re-up for another 3 months? She goes, sure, no problem. So we stayed for another 3 months. This is leading into end of 2004 at the time. We get to the end of 6 months, and I move up to actually the head food and beverage manager, and her contract comes due again. She goes, what do you want to do? I go, would you mind if we rented the house out almost permanently in Liverpool and found a place down here? I go, I don't love the area, but I love where my career's taking me. So long story short, what they did was they put me on kind of the fast track of country club management training. So I actually had to like drive into Houston to the Woodlands for a company that's called Club Core. They own clubs all over the world. And it was like very corporate, very structured, but it was all about, that's where I learned about personal branding, about how to connect with people buy from people. I quote probably that stupid handbook from Club Core. I probably have like 3 or 4 of my catchphrases that I say all the time are from that Club Core book. And when it came to crisis, not crisis, but like conflict resolution, one of the things we were always taught as club managers, and I was in line to get my first club at 25 years old. That's how fast I was going through the system before we moved back and started a family. But as a manager, when you're told to come in, when to your point, when somebody says, I want to talk to the manager, guess what? That was me. I was like the conflict, management guy. So whether it be a mother of a bride that was unhappy with her meal, or a tournament director who wasn't happy that there was only one beer cart out there, or the pro shop manager who didn't get his shipment in or whatever, part of our exercise and part of our training was actually to get deployed into a scenario where there was conflict. And this is the one question we were always told: to never undersell and never oversell a situation. Like literally just be as down the middle as possible. And we were trained to ask one question. We had one statement and one question. I understand that you're upset about this situation. What can I do to make it better for you? That was it. Because everybody's conflict resolution is different. If it's the person that's sitting down with her 3 girlfriends after they played golf and they had a crummy meal, and I went to that table and I said, I'm very sorry that you had a bad meal. What can I do to make this better for you? And 9 times out of 10, it was nothing. I just wanted to let you know about it. It's like, can I buy you? No, you don't even have to buy my lunch. Like, I just wanted to let you know about it. Or, you get the 1 out of 100 to say, well, I'm never coming back here again unless you give me a free 18 hole round. It's like, all right, I'll go into the pro shop, get you a free 18 hole round. I come back here and I hand it to you, guy. And then the only other thing we were trained to do is, okay, are you all set now? Are you happy with the situation? And that was it. So it's just amazing to me how I've applied that in my career, you know, whether it be through the winery or the distillery or with a distributor or a client or a co-packer or whatever. Is I hear you, to your point, you know, people just want to be heard, right? Especially when it comes to something like that. I hear what you're saying and I understand that you're upset. What can I do to make this better for you? Because then you put the onus on them, because no matter what they say, as long as it's not, oh, I want a free membership for life now because I had a crummy meal at the club. As long as it's not something crazy like that, as long as you do that for that person and you're acceptable, they are telling you what it is that to make them happy. So I've used that in my entire career, and I'm already racking through my brain about this situation, about, you know, some conflict resolution. But I will at some point, I'll ask that question in this scenario to somebody and say, what can I do to make this better for you? And it's worked out really well for me.
Well, yeah, because I think like the other thing is, like, if there's one thing I wish I studied more in college, it's psychology. I mean, because there's a lot that you just from paying attention that you can pick up on, but like it's just so much at the core of everything.
Yeah.
That, like, you know, people hate conflict so much that literally they just want to like pretend that like they're upset about it. But as soon as you put it out there and you make it, like, it's, you know, conflict doesn't always mean yelling in anger. Like literally you just confronting somebody and being like, hey, what is the problem? How can I help? That alone is creating conflict. And so many people, like probably 99 out of 100 are like, I don't want to do this, you know? So that instantly changes the whole narrative. Whereas if they're not heard and the manager doesn't come talk to them, then they could just sit there gassing themselves up.
Yeah.
You know, in private, I'm so mad. It's the whole hold me back, bro. Right. Like everybody wants to do that until nobody holds you back. And then like, hey, what are you going to do? You know, but that's what it is, but emotionally.
Right.
Like, oh man, but this waitress sucks. Blah, 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 blah. Wait till I tell her. And then the manager comes over. How could I help? Like, the food was not great. Right. No. You don't have to buy anything. I just wanted to let you know.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I wanted you to hear me complain.
100%. You know, everybody talks a big game until they're put on the spot. And I think that that's very much it, where, you know, and you bring up a good point about not overselling and not underselling it, but literally once you just address it and you make them real, a lot of it in our case is making them realize how insignificant this is. Like when you actually like slow down and you address it, like, okay, can we buy lunch for you? Okay, great. You got that upset over your grilled chicken being a little overdone on your salad? Okay, we can fix that. No problem. Done. You know, and that's the part that like I always laugh about. And like the guys, like especially back in the community days, because like obviously like I was like the first one that was full time. So I would do like a lot of like if people DM'd us on Instagram or something like that, addressing that. And I always used to laugh because you guys, they're like, you're so good at that. And I'm like, good at what? Like, just like literally diffusing like you just literally make people your friend at the end of it. And I'm like, well, yeah, man, like cause they're not mad. Like, you know, to this day, we have people that signed up and forgot they signed up and they're like, hey, so, you know, what's this $1.99 a month charge on my credit card? I didn't sign up for this. And I'm like, yeah, I'm going to look into that for you. Like, what's the email? Cool. Yeah, man, you signed up in August of 2012, actually. Oh, I'm like, yeah. He's like, well, I don't want to do it anymore. I'm like, okay, I'll cancel it. And I'm like, do you want me to like refund your last year? And they're like, well, how much is that? And I'm like, well, $1.99 times 12. So like, oh, it's only, and I'm like, yep. You know, refund. He's like, nah, don't worry about it. It's fine. I'm like, you don't care about the $6, dude. You know, like you're just having a bad day. And 3 other people were probably shitty to you. So now you see this and like, I'm unlucky number 4. Like, okay, cool, man. let's just handle this. Like, dude, my grandpa said it best, and it's where I think a lot of my perspective comes from. He's like, if it's not life or death, it's not life and death.
Mhm.
You can fix it. Calm down.
Mhm.
With a couple other colorful word mixed in there, but and it's so true though.
Yep.
Like it just really is. Nothing is that complicated.
Nope. It's so funny that you say it, because I have to use a weekly reminder, and it's so weird. Like something happens on Thursday nights to me, like Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Like I turn into I mean, and you can tell because I talk to you throughout the week in numerous different outlets. This being one of them, on other calls being another one, just kind of in general, kind of back and forth. Like you know me better than most people. Like my tone and my vibe like completely changes, But I wear it on my sleeve. That's that's always been my superpower and my kryptonite at the same time. But for me, something happens on like Thursday nights. Like Friday is such a chill vibe for me that is so different from Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. And the reason I'm saying that is how I react to things on different days of the week to me is really, really weird. Like the fact that this situation happened on a Friday is actually a very good thing for me because I can actually sit on it. I don't have any scheduled calls on Fridays. I purposely don't do that. I don't have any scheduled calls on Mondays or Fridays. That's one of the things I've worked on this year so that I can get my work done on Monday and get my infrastructure work done on Friday. Then I have all my booked calls Tuesday through Thursday. It's been one of the biggest unlocks for me of 2021. Like the plan is freaking working. But I'm actually glad that this happened on a Friday because I do a lot of walking on Friday and I can process things. So if this had happened on like say like Tuesday seems to be like my craziest day. Like I am just freaking amped on Tuesdays. You and I usually don't talk on Tuesdays. We talk on usually on Thursdays and sometimes on Mondays. But like if this had happened on Tuesday, like I would have completely overthought this. I probably would have responded much more reactively and probably not in a good way. But the fact that the news came out today, I really feel confident that I'm going to be able to process this properly. And it's weird because my week kind of ebbs and flows that way. But what I've been able to do is I've been able to kind of line up the energy. Like there's different energy with every single one of your clients, every single one of them. Like, who's super chill, like Aaron, who's, like super organized, like John, like, like who's super hyper, or who's super chill, all this stuff. And I'm finding myself that I'm starting to mirror my clients' energy, and I'm starting to like move those calls around about then. So it's like it's freaking amped Tuesday through Thursdays. Like you hear me on those calls, and you're probably like, what the hell's been on, and when I talk a million miles an hour, and that's one of the reasons I love doing this show on Friday, because it allows me time to pause and kind of reflect on everything that we're doing. But I really do have to, your grandfather's advice is so sage, because on Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays, I literally need everything that happens to me or to a client or a situation is the biggest thing in the history of the world. I am the chief, what am I trying to say? The chief operator of that characteristic. Like the world will crumble Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays with me. But then something like Thursday night, I'll turn on the video games, or, I'll just sit there and chill, and I'll be like, you got to breathe, man. Like you have to breathe. It's like, I love that I have that gear Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays, but then I have to downshift it, because if it's not like you said, if it's not life or death, it's not life or death. But, I didn't really have a point with telling that story, but I just think it's amazing to me how things vibe throughout the week. Do you find that with your own clients? Do you kind of have that energy vibe that kind of works throughout the week, or is it kind of even keeled?
I mean, it changes with each client, because it's, it's one of the things that I've learned, and one of the biggest struggles, not struggles, but things that you have to figure out, when you talk about scaling a client services business, is that the more systematic or cookie cutter you can make it, the easier it is to scale.
Yeah.
But it's very difficult to cookie cutter something when you have 24 different businesses in 24 different industries in 24 different personalities running it, and then not even to mention the teams within each of those businesses, where we have clients where we work with, 4, 5, 6 people there on various different things. So I try to more be, because I know that I can get the same way. I know that I match energies on, like, if they are super chill and super broy, then I'll kind of match that. If they are more kind of, clean cut, prim and proper, not cracking Miller Lights in our meetings, then obviously my demeanor changes a bit. But I just try to be as constant as possible. Like I always, like, you never want to get too high when shit is good, and you never want to get too low when things are bad, but also, kind of the nice part about our thing is everybody, especially after they've been with us for a while, everybody kind of gravitates to that middle in there, where, if you are a client that has been with us for a long time and, is going to be with us for a long time, especially with what we do, there are ebbs and flows to that. I would love to say that every single post and every single campaign and every single marketing idea that we've ever had has been pure gold and yielded a 500% ROI, but it's just not real life, and, there's things that you put out that, that work, there's things that you put out that, that don't, especially over the last year. I mean, there's been so much that's out of our control, not even just us, but the business. So I think the more that we can kind of, stay even keeled, and, like, don't get me wrong, I get hyped when shit works, but, I'm hyped about my stuff. Like, I'm hyped about our process and our plan, and when we have a good idea, and, but when we really got something, and I could tell a client, like, yo, like, I'm fucking psyched on this. I know they could see it in my eye that, like, okay, this is going to be good.
Yep.
But yeah, man, it's just, it's a big part of it it's not talked about enough, I don't think, where, and I've been on calls with you where you have to do it. You can't oversell and you can't undersell. We had, a couple of kicks to the face over the last couple of weeks, right? And if your response was, oh, that's no big deal, whatever, we fix it, without offering a solution, that's not exactly inspiring confidence that you're the guy to get through this. But at the same time, if you were like, fuck, dude, what are we going to do?
Right.
This is catastrophic.
Yep.
Same thing. Right. So it's kind of, for me, just staying in that middle. We're like, oh, fuck, man, like literally verbatim on that. I can remember the certain call up north, like literally, fuck, that sucks. All right, what are we going to do? Right. Which, like, I think that's the appropriate reaction. So it's, to bring everything full circle, it's just being human. And that's the kind of people that you want. We're like, there's this tidal wave coming, and it's like, okay, well, shit, we got 2 months to figure this out. How are we going to do it? And then if you surround yourself with quality people with knowledge and work ethic and expertise, you can come up with 3 to 5 plans that at least 2 of them will hit, and we'll be good.
Yep. Yeah. The thing I'll finish with, because I have to open up my phone now. Yeah, it's just more of the same, and this is what I tell clients when I onboard is, for the first 20 minutes of a phone call is I'm interviewing you as much as you're interviewing me.
Yep.
I said, and that really just puts it in perspective to say, I'm very lucky to be in a position where I don't need to have anything new right now. I'm very I'm extremely happy where I am. I'm extremely content where I am today, and I think it's just so important to strive to get to a point where you're there. And it's all about, we started it about being truthful, Domino's being truthful about crummy pizza. And that may have seemed like a really silly thing for some people. Personally, I thought it was brilliant when I saw it, that they literally pulled the curtain back all the way. Like, you literally cannot pull it back any further. Like, I remember seeing a commercial or a YouTube video or something where, like, the CEO like went to one of the restaurants, ordered a pizza, took a bite of it, and didn't finish, like couldn't even finish the slice of pizza. He's like, "What are we doing?" He's like, "This is terrible." I was like, "Oh," like, it literally like jolted me, but but it was just being that truthful and that honest, and that just speaking to nobody, but speaking to everybody at the same time. I was like, man, that's pretty ballsy, but I like it, And that was the first thing I thought about when Lee brought it up, is when we talked about it this week. Even before today, we were talking about it. And he's like, sometimes you just have to hit the reset, whether it be a current client, a future client, you're midstream with a client. I just went through this last month with a client that was just driving me bonkers, just not listening to, how I set parameters. It's like, you can't text after this time. You can't text before this time. You can't call after this, just breaking all the rules. And I told him, I go, dude, I really like working with you, but you're driving me nuts. I go, you are driving me nuts. I said, I want to be on this team. I want to be on this team long-term, but it's got to be within the boundaries. And he goes, you're right. And I didn't say it pissed off. I didn't say it over emotionally. I'm just like, dude, let's just bring it back in line. That's all. So we just kind of had that level set, and it's been great ever since. And I've been able to sleep better at night, and we're working better together. And we've really kind of refound our stride because we were truthful with one another. And I said, you can't do that. And he goes, I didn't realize I was even doing it. So it was just like that one quick conversation that it just level set everything. So yeah, man, being a human and being a good dude is always good strategy. Is how I would finish it.
It's the only strategy.
There you go. That's it. Episode, which one? I forgot. I always forget.
53.
Whoa, 53. I have no association with the number 53 at all.
Bobby Abreu is what comes to mind.
Wow. That's deep. That's digging deep right there.
He torched the Mets for years in Philadelphia.
There you go. That's probably why.
Major PTSD.
Episode 53. Enjoy the 65-degree sun with snow on the ground. Typical upstate New York late April weather.
We're going to be enjoying it at the lovely spring open house for Southern Tier Harley Davidson, 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. up at Front Street. See you guys there.
Dave is not going to sleep tonight.
Nope.
That's it. Episode 53. We appreciate you. Have a good weekend.
See you.
All right.